America was promised a miracle, not a strategy, not a long war plan, not another trillion-dollar foreign commitment. A miracle. Donald Trump stood on rally stages across the country in 2024, arms wide, voice booming, telling exhausted voters something they desperately wanted to hear. I will end the Ukraine war fast, maybe 24 hours, believe me. Crowds roared. Parents tired of seeing billions sent overseas cheered. Veterans nodded. Taxpayers clapped. After years of bloodshed in Eastern Europe, Trump wasn't offering patience. He was offering dominance, a deal-maker's peace, a strong man's solution. And when he returned to the White House in January 2025, the world waited. Because if anyone could bend global chaos through raw pressure and personality, Trump claimed it was him. But within weeks, the miracle began to crack. Behind closed doors, diplomats whispered. Pentagon officials worried. European allies panicked quietly. Because the war Trump promised to end in a day wasn't a business dispute. It was a grinding, bitter, historical conflict fueled by land, identity, revenge, and nuclear power. And Trump was walking into it with bravado, not leverage. He believed his personal relationship with Vladimir Putin would unlock peace. He believed threatening Ukraine would force compromise. He believed cutting aid would scare Kyiv into surrendering territory. And most dangerously, he believed America could guarantee security without paying the price of war. At first, Trump's team leaked bold ideas. Ukraine would give up parts of Donbass. Crimea would be recognized realistically. In return, the U.S. would protect Ukraine like NATO, without Ukraine actually joining NATO. Trump sold it as genius. You give a little land, you get permanent peace. That's how deals work. But Ukraine heard something else. They heard betrayal. President Zelensky remembered 1994, when Ukraine gave up nuclear weapons in exchange for Western protection that never came. He remembered Russia promising peace before invading, and now America's president was asking for surrender, based on promises again. Quietly at first, Ukraine pushed back, then publicly. We will not trade land for paper guarantees. That was the moment Trump's plan began collapsing, because Putin smelled weakness. Instead of rushing to negotiate, Russia slowed talks. Instead of compromise, Russian forces pushed harder on the front lines. Every time Trump hinted that U.S. support might stop, Moscow advanced. The Kremlin realized something powerful. Trump wanted out of the war more than Putin wanted peace, and that shifted the entire balance. Inside Washington, chaos followed. 1 week, Trump paused military aid to pressure Kyiv. The next week, he announced more weapons to show strength. One day he praised Putin as smart. The next day he threatened sanctions. Allies didn't know which America was speaking. Was it the peacemaker or the pressure dealer or the isolationist? And then came the guarantees. Trump shocked both parties by proposing something unprecedented. America would treat any major Russian attack on Ukraine as an attack on the United States. Not NATO, not Europe. America itself. A private security promise between Washington and Kyiv. Critics froze. Because this meant one Russian missile could pull the U.S. directly into war with a nuclear superpower, without Congress, without allies, without a treaty system. Supporters said it was bold. Experts said it was reckless. But Trump sold it as the ultimate deterrent. Putin won't dare touch Ukraine if America's name is on the line. Yet even Ukraine didn't trust it. The wording was vague. What counted as a major attack? A city, a base, a drone strike, 10 soldiers, 100. Russia could test limits endlessly, and then reality delivered a brutal preview. In early 2026, Russian missiles struck an American-owned mining facility in eastern Ukraine. 12 Americans were killed, workers, engineers, contractors, men who were supposed to represent Trump's skin-in-the-game deterrence strategy. The world watched. Would Trump retaliate? Would the promise activate? It didn't. The White House condemned the strike, called it tragic, but stopped short of military response. And in that silence, something shattered. If American deaths didn't trigger action, what would? Ukraine saw the truth. These guarantees were political words, not iron protection. Russia saw it too. From that moment on, Putin pushed harder. Trump's strongest card had already failed its first test. Inside Trump's administration, fractures grew. Some officials warned he was overpromising and underdelivering. Others argued pulling out would make America look weak. Republicans split between isolationists and hawks. Democrats accused Trump of selling Ukraine out. And Europe, already shaken by Trump's trade wars and NATO threats, began preparing for a future where America might walk away entirely. Meanwhile, Trump grew visibly frustrated. This wasn't the fast win he sold. This wasn't the deal he imagined. The war kept burning. The front lines kept shifting. The death toll kept rising. And every delay made Trump's original promise look more absurd. 24 hours, then 6 months. Then I was being sarcastic. But the world remembered, and Putin exploited every crack in America's uncertainty. The peace talks stalled. Secret meetings failed. Public spats exploded, including Trump humiliating Zelensky in the Oval Office on live cameras. Trust evaporated. What began as bold diplomacy had turned into geopolitical dysfunction. And now Trump faced the nightmare every strong man fears, a problem he couldn't dominate, a war he couldn't bluff away, a promise he couldn't fulfill. The miracle had become a trap, and the longer it dragged on, the more America's credibility bled. As weeks turned into months, something far more dangerous than battlefield losses began spreading across the world. Doubt, not just about the war, not just about Ukraine, but about America itself. For 70 years, U.S. power wasn't only tanks and missiles, it was trust. When America promised protection, allies believed it. When America drew red lines, enemies feared crossing them. Now those red lines were blurry, and Vladimir Putin was testing every inch. After the mining facility strike that killed American workers went unanswered militarily, Russian forces launched a new wave of gray zone operations. Not full invasions, not headline-grabbing attacks, just constant pressure. Drone strikes near U.S.-backed infrastructure, cyber attacks on Ukrainian power grids, missile hits that stopped just short of Trump's undefined major attack threshold. Each one asked the same question. Will America respond, or won't it? And every time the response was cautious. Statements, sanctions threats, diplomatic warnings, but no force. Inside Moscow, analysts celebrated quietly. They had cracked Trump's strategy. The guarantees weren't shields. They were political slogans, and slogans don't stop artillery. Putin now understood something vital. Trump was trapped between two nightmares. If he intervened militarily, he risked nuclear escalation and breaking his America First promise of avoiding foreign wars. If he didn't, America looked weak, unreliable, and bluffing. So Putin pushed right down the middle. Meanwhile, Ukraine's leadership grew increasingly desperate. Zelensky publicly praised America while privately begging European leaders for independent security arrangements. France discussed joint air defenses. Germany fast-tracked weapons manufacturing. Poland openly prepared for spillover war. Europe had started planning for a future where the U.S. might not show up. And that was the moment NATO's foundation began to shake. Because alliances aren't built on contracts, they're built on belief. And belief was eroding fast. Trump didn't help. In speeches, he blamed Ukraine for being difficult. He accused Europe of freeloading. He hinted again that America might step back if no deal happened soon. Each comment echoed across global capitals like a warning siren. China listened closely. Iran watched carefully. North Korea took notes. Because if America could waver in Ukraine, where it had invested hundreds of billions in global prestige, it could waver anywhere. Taiwan suddenly felt far more vulnerable. In Congress, hearings turned brutal. Military leaders warned that U.S. deterrence was collapsing in real time. Former diplomats said allies were quietly exploring non-American security frameworks. Economists warned of de-dollarization efforts accelerating in Europe and Asia. Trump's promise to end one war was now reshaping the world order, and not in America's favor. At home, public opinion fractured. Some Americans cheered pulling back. Not our war. Others feared the cost of weakness. Today, Ukraine. Tomorrow, NATO. Then us. Cable news ran split screens. On one side, burning Ukrainian cities. On the other, Trump insisting peace was still very close. But peace never came. Instead, Russia dug deeper into occupied territory, built fortifications, moved families in, turned seized land into permanent control. The longer talks dragged, the more reality solidified. Every month of delay made Ukraine weaker. Every month made Russia stronger. And Trump's leverage shrank. The sanctions he threatened, already priced into Russia's economy. The aid cuts, hurting Ukraine more than Moscow. The guarantees, exposed as hollow. The deal of the century had no pressure left behind it. Privately, even Trump allies admitted the truth. Putin wasn't negotiating. He was waiting for U.S. elections, waiting for Western fatigue, waiting for Trump to either walk away or accept Russia's terms. And then came the moment that finally shattered the illusion. In late January 2026, leaked intelligence showed Russia preparing a major spring offensive, the largest since the war began. Not a defensive posture, an expansion. It was Putin's message to Trump. Your pressure failed. Your promises failed. Your peace failed. Now I'll take what I want. Trump reportedly exploded behind closed doors. He had promised victory without war. Now he was staring at escalation without leverage. If he intervened, he owned the war. If he didn't, he owned the collapse of Ukraine. There was no winning move left. Foreign policy experts began calling it one of the most dangerous miscalculations by a U.S. president in decades, not because Trump wanted peace, but because he treated war like a business negotiation. You can pressure a company. You can't pressure a nation fighting for survival. You can bluff in real estate. You can't bluff against tanks. The original promise, end the war fast, had boxed America into an impossible corner, and the world was paying the price. By February 2026, negotiations were mostly symbolic. Ukraine fought on. Russia advanced slowly but steadily. Europe armed itself independently. America hesitated. And the global order, built after World War II, quietly began shifting away from U.S. leadership. Not overnight, but structurally. Exactly how historians say superpowers decline, not in explosions, in moments where they choose not to act. Trump still insists a deal is coming, still says only he can fix it, still tells crowds the war would never have happened under him, but reality tells a harsher story. His bold promise didn't end the war. It complicated it, lengthened it, and weakened America's position in the world. What began as a campaign slogan turned into a geopolitical trap, a trap where every option now carries disaster, and as Ukraine burns into its fourth year of war. One truth is becoming impossible to ignore. Some conflicts can't be solved by pressure. Some wars can't be rushed into peace. And some promises, once spoken, reshape history in ways no leader can control.